More than 25 lines of evidence have allowed some scientists to conclude that exposure of susceptible babies and children to acetaminophen causes many, if not most, cases of autism spectrum disorder. However, other studies have been published concluding that acetaminophen is perfectly safe. One underlying reason for the disagreement is due to something called confounding factors. Often, adjusting for confounding factors is a vitally important and extremely helpful part of statistical analysis. For example, drinking coffee has been associated with lung cancer in multiple studies, which means that people who drink coffee tend to have a higher risk of lung cancer. This could lead scientists to conclude that drinking coffee might cause lung cancer, but when scientists took a step back and looked at the big picture, they found a confounding factor. People who drink lots of coffee are also more likely to smoke cigarettes. When scientists adjusted for the confounding factor of smoking, they saw that there was no direct connection between coffee and lung cancer. In this case, smoking was the confounding factor that made it look like coffee might cause lung cancer, even though it doesn't. Unfortunately, some scientists made the mistake of thinking that factors related to something called oxidative stress are confounding factors that causes autism. In other words, they thought that the situation with coffee and cancer was the same as the situation with acetaminophen and autism. But overwhelming evidence tells us that this is not correct. Overwhelming evidence tells scientists that the correct equation is very different. Acetaminophen plus oxidative stress causes neurodevelopmental problems. Oxidative stress is what happens when our body can't keep up with all of life's demands on our immune system and metabolism. Overwhelming evidence also tells us that numerous genetic and environmental factors come together to cause oxidative stress, which makes babies and small children susceptible to injury by acetaminophen. In this case, the numerous genetic and environmental factors leading to oxidative stress are not confounding factors for the induction of autism. Those factors interact with acetaminophen to create injury. It is a rudimentary principle in statistics that treating interacting factors the same as confounding factors yields a false result. Computer simulations prove that even when acetaminophen exposure combined with oxidative stress causes half of all cases of autism, treating factors related to oxidative stress as confounding factors makes acetaminophen look much safer than it is, or even perfectly safe. Those computer simulations replicate the effects of published mistakes made when analyzing real-world data, shown in this graph. Some papers say that these calculations show that acetaminophen is safe, but these calculations actually show that acetaminophen will not lead to the induction of autism only if oxidative stress is sufficiently low. If individuals have sufficient oxidative stress, abundant and robust evidence demonstrates the potential for acetaminophen to induce autism. When scientists first began publishing studies of healthcare databases looking at the safety of acetaminophen in 2013, they assumed that factors related to oxidative stress might be confounding factors. More importantly, they treated those oxidative stress-related factors as confounding factors in their calculations and reported the results that way. This was strictly an assumption made at that time, with no justification. Unfortunately, this error has been propagated extensively in the medical literature, affecting dozens of publications and obscuring reality for more than a decade. The error has caused many investigators to underestimate the effect of acetaminophen on the developing brain and has caused a few to disregard it completely. It is the combined weight of evidence from numerous fields of medicine and science over many decades which gives rise to dozens of lines of independent evidence. Evidence that allows scientists to conclude that a causal relationship between acetaminophen and autism exists. As the confusion regarding confounding factors demonstrates, even rudimentary mistakes in a single type of study on the safety of acetaminophen can be very misleading.